So we'll call the meeting to order. We'll stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Mr. Chairman, I'll make a motion to accept the minutes as written for the April 10th, 2025 meeting of the Police Commission.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Report of the Chief and Captain. Chief.
Good evening, all. I just had a couple of items I wanted to bring to your attention. As you know, the police department had made a request for 2 cruisers in the last voting cycle. Those vehicles, or the request for those vehicles, was denied by the voters. And so we're doing what we can with the vehicles that we still have. The vehicles that were of concern to us were the 4 vehicles that were purchased or leased, I believe, in 2016. Quick math tells me that's 9 years. And because of those 4 cruisers were concerned, we had them all evaluated by Ben Berry from the Highway Garage, who does the maintenance on the cars. And you should have a copy of that letter from Ben, but if you don't or you can't find it, let me know and I'll resubmit it. But I'll give you a quick overview of it for the record. The cars, once again, were car 2, car 3, car 9, and car 10. Starting from the worst to the best, car 2 is, when Ben looked at it at the end of April, it had 152,000 miles on it. How many does it have now?
153 and change.
Okay. He was concerned immediately on the condition of the transmission. He was also concerned by significant rusting in the rocker panels and the rear suspension. He undercoated the vehicle again, knowing we're going to have to limp it along the best we can. Car 3, 140,000 miles. He noted several repairs that have been done recently, including a water pump. He believes there will be more repairs coming, but it's still in better shape than the aforementioned 2. The rocker panels, again, are showing rust. My calls to several other agencies and chiefs that I know, I asked them about how they were doing with their Ford Explorers. The ones that had Explorers that were 8 years old, I didn't find any that had them older than that, all indicated that they have rocker panel rust issues. There are some holes that need to be patched, and that would have to be farmed out to an outside vendor. He believes that that will have to be done before the vehicle would be able to pass an inspection. Car 9 is 116,000 miles. He noted quite a bit of undercarriage rust, but there are no holes that are evident at this point. As opposed to the first 2 cars mentioned, he is planning on doing a transmission fluid change. He's concerned about doing one for the other 2 vehicles. He doesn't think it'll work out. I don't have that much mechanical skills in my background, but I understand that to mean if you switch them out, you switch over the fluid, then that might present a problem with the transmission. He believes car 9 can have that done. It will need some work done soon, including fuel injectors. Car 10, 125,000 miles. That would be the old K9 unit. That's the best of the 4 mentioned. It has had some mechanical work done lately. The engine and transmission appear to be in working order, although he's going to watch the rust again. So the summary that Ben came up with is that cars 9 and 10, again, the last 2 I mentioned, should give us a couple years if we baby them. Car 3 could give us a year. It's going to require repair. And car 2, in his words, is a stretch. The useful life of the cruiser is expired, and he's concerned about it being used for emergency service. Transmissions appear to be the biggest concerns at this point with the cars. It's my intention to ground Car 2 at this point. It will still be outfitted in an absolute emergency. If we have to park it on the side of the road with the blue lights going, then that's what its purpose is going to be, but it's not going to be a patrol vehicle, citing some safety concerns. Because Ben is employed by the town of Wolfeboro, I think it's a good idea, and it's no shade on Ben. I'm going to have another mechanic go through the 4 vehicles as well independently and give their report as well. And I will report back to the commission what that is. So moving forward with vehicles, not the ones I mentioned as much as the other vehicles that we do have, we are going to shorten the service intervals and service the vehicles a little bit more often than we currently do or what was currently required of us. And Ben indicates there's a better undercoating service that we should be using to guard against the rust. So that's my comments on the cars. Is there any questions on those specifically?
Just about, Mark, you probably, I don't know if you have this information offhand. What was roughly the line item for repairs for the year? What do we have in the budget for that, for the repair of the vehicles? Roughly?
We asked for 12 going into the 25 year, but the default budget put it back to, I thought it was 8,000.
And you know where we're at now? Do you have any-
We've almost spent that.
Already?
Yeah.
We're close.
I think that's one of the concerns we had, obviously.
Yep.
That was going to happen.
Because that was such a positive note, I do want to switch it up a little bit. I want to, I want everybody out there listening, as well as the commission, to realize that we had 3 anniversaries. First of all, on April 1st, Corporal Joe Shanks has celebrated 5 years with Wolfeboro.
Nice.
Great.
And
Congratulations, Joe.
he's done a phenomenal job here, and I hope that he does many more.
Certainly has.
April 3rd, Jared Bollier has done 8 years here.
Wow.
His expertise, his skill set, as well as Joe's, as far as the training of the new people, I can't tell you what a godsend that has been. They understand the town, they understand the priorities of the community, and they've been very good at putting that forward to the new folks on board, as well as bringing the attitudes of those that work at the PD, myself included. They bring us up in morale. The third is April 28th. Mia Lyons is 22 years with the town of Wolfeboro.
Wow.
In her role in communications. And we certainly have relied a lot on Mia for especially this move where there's new consoles, there's communications issues. That building is requiring a whole lot of work with two-way and Block 5, of which Mia has been our point person, if you will, as she is also getting into a more structured role as the supervisor of the communications division, and she's been doing a great job, and we're lucky to have her. So I just wanted to make sure you were all aware of those anniversaries. Since the last time you all met, and you notice I wasn't here, and but I did view your meeting. But since April 1st or 10th or thereabouts to now, I can tell you that the department has been understaffed, and they've risen to the occasion. I can't tell you how much I appreciate the amount of work these officers have been doing. Certainly, everybody at the front of the room has had law enforcement background and quite a bit of it. We all remember that open shift, and everybody was, fighting and wanting to get that shift and get that overtime money. That has long since passed us here in Wolfeboro. These officers are working extra hours, and they're taking hours away from their family to fill those gaps. And I appreciate them all for doing that. It's hard. And I think I appreciate, and I think my wife told me to do this, but I appreciate more the sacrifice of their families, because they're gone. And we certainly appreciate the efforts of their loved ones at home. During that time, there has been 9 arrests since the last time you met. Those arrests include DWI, numerous marijuana offenses, actually numerous trespassing cases where arrests have been made, and there was a disobeying a police officer case where the person was placed in custody. 7 motor vehicle crashes that required state reports. We've had several mental health issues, and that seems to be the thing across the country, not only the state of New Hampshire, where there's more and more mental health issues, and being the town that has the local hospital, we're seeing more of those as well from other agencies bringing folks in for care. The 2 officers that you met and introduced to the crowd, Officers Weed and Greco, began their 16-week journey at the police academy on Monday. Early comments from the folks that we know that work in and around the academy, and I know a couple of officers that are doing their law package for other agencies, have commented and complimented us on great hires. So these guys have phenomenal temperaments, their morale is up, and they're already leading others in positive behaviors at the academy. So that's good to hear. Quick swap over to the public safety building. We're currently in phase 3 of 3 phases. Our occupation scheduled for mid-June. Would you say that's a safe bet?
11th and 12th
11th and 12th right now.
was the
Mid-June.
movement. Just give me a date.
I would also like to, there's been a couple cases I wanted to focus on, just to let you know what your officers are doing. We did have one of our arrests for theft was an individual who stole a bunch of construction products off of a site in town. Corporal Shanks did the investigation. He acquired some evidence and some statements. He was doggedly pursuing this case, and we found him. He's found his guy. We arrested him, and it resulted in actually several charges. Numerous officers also investigated a motorcycle crash on Pleasant Valley Road in April, which resulted in several charges, including reckless driving and uninspected and driving without giving proof. Another thing I want to quickly mention is the guy on my left is wearing an external ballistic vest that are load-bearing. This has been a slow but steady changeover from the traditional uniforms to something that is sweeping the nation, and it's sweeping the nation for more health issues than anything else. As you all know, because you were on the job when we carried all of our weight around our waist, 20 years of that, 30 years of that, or even more, will cause you some physical problems and ailments. What we're doing now is we're moving to an external load-bearing ballistic vest. And as you'll notice, the captain is wearing his tonight. It indicates on the back the Wolfeboro Police, and on the front his name and his badge. Also found on the vest are numerous tools of the trade, and as odd as it may seem, it looks like there's more than he usually carries. He's not carrying any more gear than he always carried around his waist. So we're excited. We're excited about it.
See this.
So it looks like an awful lot. There's no additional equipment that he's wearing that he always wore. So you see how much we're moving the weight onto the shoulders and getting it off the hips and the back. And everything is from side to side forward. There's nothing stacked on the rear. So he's safely sitting in a cruiser. And these are across the board, all the officers will be wearing these. They're slowly moving over to them now. And I was always accused by my officers over the years of being old school. So when these first started hitting the streets, as it were, I was initially opposed to them. I thought they were military looking. I thought they were in opposition of a citizen police communication, a friendly capability of communicating. Over the years, I found out that most citizens don't realize it. Many citizens know that it's what you do. It's your job. You have to bring your equipment with you. And it always still goes back to the officer themselves, his or herself. How they communicate is the bottom line of how they're perceived by the public. To that end, I have no concerns about any of the members of the Wolfeboro Police Department. And I'm still hearing a lot of compliments from people. In fact, we just took a phone call from an individual who had a family member involved in kind of a traumatic event. Again, Joe Shanks was the officer involved. The person couldn't say enough positive things about the officer and the police department and the town. So to that, I hand it back to you for any questions you might have.
I do have a couple of questions. Can you talk about the camera program, where we're at?
Body-worn camera?
Yep.
I'll let the captain jump on that since he was just talking to a few folks.
Yeah, so, I mean, we have the cameras, they came in, so we do have them in-house. Contacted Axon, starting the startup program, just got the email regarding it, so I can get into it, get it all set up, and then we'll be basically distributing it out to the officers so they can actually hold it, have it, use it a little bit, get comfortable with it. The chief and Investigator Shigori is working on the policy, so we're finalizing that piece too. We're hoping to get this out mid-June.
I was hoping for June 1. I'm thinking it's going to be right about the time when we move into the...
Because we got to get some training in with all the officers in-house and look at the policies and use.
Got it. Great.
That's where we are right now.
Excellent, thank you. And then the second question is for the chief. I don't want to put you on the spot, but
Yes, you do.
where well, we can push this off to the next meeting, but just briefly, where are we with accreditation? Maybe percentage of policies that still need to be revised or created, and when do you expect accreditation for us to apply to the
Sure.
for the state? So
I hope to apply for a mock, which is the first step, by the end of the year.
okay.
Typically, departments will start their accreditation process. It's 2 to 3 years. I hope to get the shorter end of that. Investigator Shigori has been on top of this, but we've had to pull him back a little bit because of all the background investigations that we're all doing on applicants, which I think is a priority at this point. But with the completion of the building, that's a major part of the accreditation, where a lot of it relies on storage of evidence or where you put prisoners that are in custody or these types of things. So as soon as that's done, then we can better focus on policies that involve the physical part of the building that I can't write yet until I see the physical part of the building in actuality. The hard part about getting to accreditation, mock or real, is you have to do something called proofs. And for those of you who aren't aware, every policy that you write, you have to prove that you do it. So if the policy says, and it's an accreditation standard, if an officer is on a way, a road, doing traffic or moving traffic, they have to wear a reflectorized vest or jacket, and it has to follow ANSI standards and these types of things. Well, that's a great policy, but now I have to prove that we do it. Proof can be a photograph of the officer directing traffic in the vest. It could be a videotape that attaches to the program but it has to show that we're actually doing that. So a lot of them are relatively easy to prove, that one being one of them. If a cruiser is obstructing any part of a roadway, it has to at least have its rear flashing lights on. Easy to prove. We could actually even take a car out, put it on the road, put the lights on, take a picture. But there are some other policies that you really have to wait till it happens. And that's the time killer, because you have to wait till you have an event that the policy would attract or have anything to do with, corroborate with. Then you prove it through either a police report or a photograph or a video, and then you've got it. So that's going to be the long part. So I'm hoping by the end of the year we should, because we'll have different seasons and we'll be able to hit on a lot of the different policies.
Great. Thanks, Chief. Appreciate
There
it.
was something I wanted to mention. Currently, there is still 4 openings. We have 2 in background now, and we have 4 other people interested who are kind of in the queue that we can only do so many backgrounds at a time. We want to make sure they're done correctly. So we're picking up on a lot of folks who are making application. We are currently strong. There is nobody who has indicated that they are wanting to go anywhere else. And so we're looking pretty good, and we'll hopefully have great things to report by the next meeting.
Nice.
Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Anything else?
No,
Anything else?
no, I'm good.
Commission business,
Is Mark doing reports? The chief did all those?
we just kind of, that was it.
Okay.
Now, the next meeting will be Thursday, June 12th, here at the building at 6 o'clock. So Thursday, June 12th at 6, same room. Old business, table business, pending business.
Yep, I've got something for that. I'll go. A copy for you, that's my response, and the settlement agreement is attached also. Thanks. So our meeting last month, Carol Llewellyn was here once again and inquired about her husband's duty weapon and a rocking chair that was supposedly offered or promised to him. I looked into this, so I'm going to just read the response that I prepared so that it's in the minutes. The reason that I'm responding to this is I was the only commissioner seated here that was around 5 years ago when this happened, or alleged to have happened. So in response to Mrs. Llewellyn, her recent statements and questions to the Police Commission, I offer the following responses. However, before I begin, I would like to clear up a subtle point. The lawsuit which your husband filed in 2021 against the town was settled out through negotiation with Primex and your husband's attorney and not the courts. There was some reference made by Mrs. Llewellyn that it was the court had rewarded her husband. To be clear, this matter was never heard in front of the courts, and to further clarify, Primex is a risk management insurance exchange for municipalities in New Hampshire. Words have meanings, and though I know Mrs. Llewellyn did not mean to mislead the public, accuracy in matters like these are essential so as not to appear as to be specious. Since it was a lawsuit, all proceedings and anything dealing with your husband and his claims were handed over to the town's Primex attorneys dealing with the case. The town, through its attorney, had some very limited and only from an advisory standpoint input, but the overall disposition in matter rested solely with Primex and what they thought best, not for the town, but for themselves, as they are the town's insurance carrier and were bearing the weight of the liability. The reason I explain this is that it will be the driving factor in the response to some of these inquiries. And then there was the matter of the rocking chair and the service weapon upon retirement. Peter Llewellyn retired on June 1st, 2020, nearly 5 years ago during the height of the COVID pandemic. Now, at that time, on the very same day that Officer Llewellyn retired, we also had another full-time member of the police department retire. And as a result of those retirements, the police department experienced some unforecasted financial obligations per the union contract, meaning buyouts, the retirement, for vacation time, earned time, et cetera, and other openings that we had in the department. And they were unexpected and unplanned relative to the fiscal 2020 budget. Your husband moved up his retirement to June 1st as opposed to July 1st, and he desired to come back to work the following day after his retirement as a part-time officer, as a planned retirement cruise had been canceled due to the pandemic. This timing was never agreed upon by the commission and was not part of the chief's plan. He was looking at a start of the following school year, mid-fall timeframe. The chief at that time phoned your husband and tried to explain these matters to him and asked him to be patient as he tried to work through the issues with the budget. Had your husband decided to do that, he would have been considered for the position when it became available. Captain Livy was in Chief Rondo's office when the call was made to your husband, along with calls to another retired full-time officer and 2 part-time personnel who we could not bring back at that time. However, your husband ultimately secured counsel and filed legal actions against the town, and when that happened, all personnel and administrative actions ceased, and the matter was handed over to town council and the Primex attorneys who represent the town in such matters. In short, neither the chief, commission, town manager, nor the Board of Selectmen had any real leverage in this case, since all matters are dealt with by the attorneys assigned by the town's insurance carrier. Your husband was ultimately paid $100,000 by Primex and the town to end the suit. This agreement was to end the suit and settle the matter once and for all. If the items like the rocking chair, weapon, and anything else that were important to him, they should have been included in the final settlement. They were not. In fact, when the call was made to your husband, there was no mention of the service weapon or rocking chair. That was confirmed by both Chief Rondo and Captain Livy that no such discussion took place. It also never came to the commission for approval, which would have been required. And under the legal provisions of res judicata and collateral estoppel, this matter is now closed and will not be reopened. I provide this explanation to you only once so that you and the public can have an understanding of how the events unfolded. We will not argue these points again, nor will we discuss this matter further, as it has been closed by legal agreement. And just for the benefit of the public, collateral estoppel is also known as issue preclusion. It's a legal doctrine that prevents a party from relitigating an issue that was resolved in a previous lawsuit or administrative proceeding, even if the issue relates to a different claim. And under res judicata, it's often referred to as claim preclusion. Collateral estoppel is often referred to as issue preclusion. Res judicata is raised when a party thinks that a particular claim was already or could have been litigated and therefore should not be litigated again. So that is the response based on the statements and questions that were raised last month.
Thank you. Any questions? I'll accept the motion to place this response in the record, into the record.
So moved.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
In furtherance of this, I will take a copy of this and turn it over to Sherry. And
I've got a copy. I gave it to the captain already.
great. Yep, and ask her to mail a copy or hand deliver a copy to Carol Llewellyn ASAP. Any objections to that?
Not at all.
Thank you.
A couple of issues under commission business. There's been some discussion recently with the selectmen. Periodically, the commission does meet with the selectmen on business-related issues, town, business-related issues. There's been some discussion to make that a little more frequent, maybe quarterly, 4 times a year, something like that. So we are planning some ones coming up shortly. We think it's just a good idea to have communications between the commission, management of the department, and the selectmen, as well as the town manager. So that's something we've been working on, and we support that 100%.
Is there, we meet on June 12th, again, at our next meeting. Is this something maybe we could meet with the select board?
Yes, there has been some
Prior to a meeting?
discussion on that. Paul, you have any input on that? Okay, that's something Jim's taking care of? Yeah, okay. Right. Under old business, we have had some discussion at previous meetings in reference to a point that was already brought up, but that being the rock and chair issue and the firearm issue. And to refresh everyone's recollection of that, when someone retires from the town, not just the police department, from any agency in the town, they are issued a rocking chair. And that is not, again, a police department issue, even though the money does come out of the budget. Is that correct, Chief? Our budget, Mark?
My understanding.
Yeah, but it is a town issue. And so I think, unless someone can educate me on this, the policy on that hasn't been clear. Is that correct? Do we know, is there a written policy on it that the town would have, and not us in particular?
Yeah, I spoke with Amy, and there's no written policy, but the past practice has been 15 or plus years.
Okay.
15 or more, okay.
I'm thinking maybe that's something possibly we bring up at our next selectmen's meeting and ask the town to come up with a policy on that, so we have some guidance on it about, it'd be nice to keep it consistent between the highway department, fire department, police department, library. So it's all the same. Does that make sense?
Yep.
Right. So I guess I can make a motion of that, just to bring that up at the next meeting to try to resolve that issue into an actual written policy that we can follow. Anyone want to make that motion?
So moved?
Yeah, I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
On the issue of the firearms, also, we had discussed, in not last month's meeting, I believe the month before, on the issue of the firearm, and again, to refresh everyone's memory on that, there has been some history in the past where when an officer retires from the agency, that he or she is issued as a parting gift, I would guess, their sidearm. And Mark, and I asked Mark versus the chief just because of the history along this here. Do we know how many were actually given out over the years? Do we even know?
It's a few.
Yeah, I don't have the documentation because it goes through the firearms,
Yeah.
which would be the, back then, it's got to be maybe 4 or 5.
And I think it's people that have reached full retirement as well, it's
Yeah.
not,
I mean, thinking one, two,
I know of four.
I know of 4. Before Stu Chase, I don't think we had it, and that would be, if they gave a firearm prior to that, I wouldn't have the knowledge of it.
And I know we did ask before, or there was some reference to an agency policy on that. Do we have a written policy?
We have a former policy. As you all know, we're rewriting all our policies. An existing policy that I believe was signed off by Chief Chase, first time he was chief, and I don't know the number off the top of my head, but the policy, to paraphrase, stated, an officer who retires in good stead from the department after 15 or more years may be gifted his or her duty weapon by the commission. So as I read the policy, until that policy is removed, that gives the commission the authority by policy to gift the duty weapon to any member of the police department who leaves the agency in good stead, but they would have had to first serve at least 15 years.
right.
And if either of you are aware, has there ever been a policy or a situation where, like, I know we're going through a weapon transition now, is that correct?
We are.
So our officers ever offered the purchase of their old weapon versus turning them into Because they're traded in, correct? Is that what we do? We trade in the weapons?
The weapons are being traded in. The cost for the new weapons is based upon that trade-in of the weapons. So any weapons that don't go to trade-in will increase the cost of the new firearms. Any purchase made of the firearms that we are trading in would have to be through that authorized dealer. We can't sell guns.
Okay.
So we could certainly, and I believe other agencies have done this. Kevin, you might be familiar with it, where a communication is made with the dealer that accepts the old firearms and is told, Billy Jones is on the agency, he's going to want to purchase his old gun, this is his serial number. So he gets the right firearm. I've heard of that being done before. I'm not sure if that's the direction that the commission wants to go in, but it wouldn't affect us because those weapons have already been turned in, and then they can make whatever deal between the private individual who was a police officer, whether they're retired or not at that point, they can buy the SIG if that's what they decided to do.
So ultimately, the weapon would be purchased through a third party or a vendor,
From a
legal
dealer.
vendor.
Yeah. 'Cause
Licensed
that's
dealer.
our last, before these firearms, SIGs, the officers had a chance to purchase it through the dealer and go down there through SIG if they wanted to purchase their old guns. It was nothing to do with the PD.
Any discussion on that? Any feelings on that?
Would that still be the case for this situation?
How so? Where we are now,
Yeah.
by policy, you still have the authority to gift a firearm. What I'm telling you is if you do that, we're going to be spending more money for the weapons we're getting, and you do that at your own peril. So like, I can't give you anything else.
So, good.
I mean,
Yeah, we've, like I said, mentioned earlier, like in 2 meetings ago, we did have this discussion. We brought it up, and I think we tabled it, if I remember correctly. Someone want to refresh my memory on that, if it's
No
different.
gifting.
Yeah, but, I kind of want to, it's probably time to put it to rest one way or another in my mind, and I don't mind, so I don't mind doing it. If you guys want to have some discussion on it, my particular position is that, if an officer wants to go out and buy it through a third vendor, if weapons are turned in, that's fine. And that's a reasonable procedure. But as far as us, I feel in this day and age, gifting a weapon for financial reasons, for liability reasons, there's just a lot of reasons, I'm uncomfortable with it.
As am I.
Yeah, I'd be more apt to, make a motion to, I probably will, just to eliminate that policy altogether, so that's never an issue again. And if commissioners down the road want to, bring that back in, I think that's fine.
I don't see any reason why we can't make that motion this evening, vote on it, and that gives direction to the chief in writing a new policy, that this is where the commission stands.
We can communicate back and forth on wording of the policy, and we can get to something. Because at some point when we're done with the rewrite of the policies, all other policies will be null and void anyway. So if it's not included in the new policies, it's just not going to be a policy anymore. But that will be your action as a board.
Then it'll take care of itself.
It will.
Yeah, so, so I think I'll make a motion that, that we can make a motion, I guess, that we would just rescind that, and just to rescind the policy on it, so it is not, not in existence anymore.
I would just interject, I'd be cautious about that right now, because there's other stuff in that same policy that you don't want to rescind. So currently, the gifting of a firearm is not a requirement of the commission. It's your call. So if you don't want to gift a firearm, don't. And then let us rewrite, I'll focus on that policy first to get it out of the way, but let us rewrite that policy without that piece in it. But there are other parts of that policy you're going to want to keep, because it's about separation from the agency and what has to happen. So we need to keep a lot of that stuff in there. So if you vote to negate the policy, then you're negating a lot more than you want to right now.
And I guess the point that I was making is if we're not going to gift any weapons, then we just don't gift the weapons.
It's your call.
You can revise the policy.
Correct.
That portion of it is left out, and then it's null and void.
Yes.
Yeah, I understand, yeah, no, I clearly understand that we have that ability to do either or.
Right.
But, you know, for the interest of, you know, just to have it, everything should be in policy in my book, one way or another. And that's certainly one that, you know, to keep the issue clear and concise and where we are on this. But that's fine, that, you know, I can make a motion to ask the chief, you know, to rewrite the policy and then bring it back in front of us at the next meeting or 2 meetings down the road to review. Good?
Have it ready for you at the next meeting.
Excellent.
Or you'll see it online.
Okay, great.
When you sign in, you approve.
Right, yeah. So I'll make that motion if anyone wants to second it.
Sure. Seconded.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay. A couple meetings ago, we also talked a little bit about, we mentioned the issue of, it was brought up during the last election cycle from more than a few folks in town, in reference that, you know, maybe we mirror the selectmen in a few ways. And we've already made some adjustments, as everyone can clearly see today, where we moved our meeting from the library to the Great Hall, like the selectmen. And we changed the meeting time from 4 o'clock to 6 o'clock, so more people could make the meeting. And also, obviously, the advantage of having the meeting here versus the library is it's, you know, put out to the public via the television channel in real time versus being on a delay. So we think that, you know, makes a lot of sense, and we've made those changes. And one more change that was brought up to us, again, by more than a few folks, is that, you know, should we add 2 more people to this commission to equal the 5, you know, equal 5? And I don't think that's a bad idea. So in my thought, you know, I wonder if it's a good idea to make a motion or to, in reference to a petition article that we put on next year's ballot, and let the folks decide on that. If the voters in town decide, you know, they want to add 2, great, we'll approve that. If they don't, then we won't. And it should be mentioned, in anticipation of me talking about this, you know, I did talk to town council, because there is some legal issues. As we know, this commission wasn't just made up by the voters of the town, it was actually made up by legislative action. So back in the day, the legislature passed a law saying, giving the town permission or the authority to form a commission. And then it was brought to the town voters, and they did that. And it was his legal opinion that we could definitely not do it by a town vote alone. It would have to have a town vote and also legislative action also. And that's the way it would have to work. So I also did reach out to one of our state reps, John McDonald, and asked him about that. You know, would he be willing to sponsor such a bill? And of course, yes. And the only thing he did was, he said, you know what, I know how the legislators are. I'm not sure if they want to entertain a bill when we know, if we don't even know if the townspeople would support it. So it was his suggestion that we take it to, you know, petition article first. If the town, the people, the voters in the town approve it to add 2 more, then we take that petition to the legislature. He'll sponsor a bill, and he thinks it'll go through quickly, obviously, because we have that proof that that's what the town people require. And I'll entertain some discussion on that.
I agree. I don't have an issue with it, 100%.
Okay.
Yep.
And so I guess I'll just make a motion that we agree that, you know, we'll, between now and January, we'll write a warrant article that we'll sponsor, I guess, asking the townspeople to take up that matter, the addition from the 3 to the 5. Anyone want to second that?
Yeah, I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
And on that note, I didn't pass on you, Paul, the selectmen's minutes, but I thought it'd be a good time to put you up at this time after that. You can press in on that also, if you want to press in on that issue. I think you got to turn it on. I think that he shut it off with the battery. Yep.
to tap the microphone and drive people crazy outside. Welcome back. Great to have you back. Thank you, gentlemen, for having me here tonight. Congratulations. I was unaware of what you just discussed, and that is an outstanding idea. Personal opinion. I do have the benefit of sitting with 4 of my colleagues, and that's always a fun thing to do. Tongue-in-cheek sometimes, but you know what? That's good. I think Town Council, you and Representative McDonald will figure out the right mechanism. Yes, it's true that this was you folks were enabled by an act of the legislature, so the voters probably have to indicate sincerity, and then the legislature will have to take an action, but I'll leave that to the lawyer and you capable folks to figure that out. Congratulations, that's a great idea. Not to pile on, but I also, for what it's worth, I'm getting an occasional person about the Wolfeboro Police Department. See you more often, out on the street, talking to people. Feels good. I think that's all positive, very positive. It's progress, and that's always a good thing to do. I want to thank the Police Commission and the Chief for allowing Captain Livy to come to our select board meetings. Last night was an early night. We got around 10:30 or something. It's been wild, and the reason I mention that is summer season is upon us, and we have been approving a bunch of special event permits. It's going to be crazy busy this summer. 4th of July was a great discussion about how much is going on. And just for the benefit of the public, on 4th of July, this town is investing with you folks, and other departments. Those couple of days, that's $25,000 worth of investment this town and the taxpayers are making to ensure that 4th of July activity is safe, it's fun, people get their ice cream, they get on a boat, and they go someplace else and enjoy themselves out on the lake. So it's going to be pretty darn busy this 4th of July if the quantity of event permits that we've said okay to go along. The ambulance business, which is near and dear to people's hearts, is moving along. I was with the president of the hospital this morning, as well as I spent some time on the phone with our beloved Chief Zadi. The new ambulance that we authorized for purchase might show up next week. He's in a series of interviews for the new deputy. He's going along and interviewing folks to make sure that we get more resources on the ground. For those who worry about this stuff, Huggins Hospital and the fire service, ambulance service, they meet like every other week and practice at night. They get in the room and they pretend that something has happened, and they practice on what do you do. And I've attended a few of those just because I was on the ambulance board. That's quality stuff. The two things that I personally worry about in the ambulance, and it's no secret, is can we recruit and retain enough staff, EMTs, and I think Jim and everybody worked on the contract side of this to make sure our compensation structure is right, which was a big lift, I think. But the second part of it is, can we figure out how to do billing? And the billing for ambulance is, it's wild, and that's something we have to just pay attention to. It's road season. The asphalt plants are open. As you notice, the stuff's being thrown all over the place. It will only get a little worse, so anticipate that. Hopefully, this road here will be dealt with within the next several weeks. We thank the public for putting up with the wavy gravy aspect of the road during the wintertime, and you folks as well. That's probably why the chief was talking about the cruisers being in trouble, because they were probably driving over those roads and getting all wrecked up. More to come on that. Steve Randall, if anybody's interested and just wants to watch a few minutes of Select Board TV, Steve Randall stood here last night and just displayed from conversation everything he's working on around the town. So if you're interested in knowing what's going on, this guy was right off, like as you guys are, right off the top of his head talking about the work on the roads. I think it was a quality effort. And the last thing, which is actually a good news, our beloved Barry Muccio, who runs our electric department, showed up last night bearing gifts, and those gifts are for the ratepayers. Every year we get a check from the Regional Greenhouse Gas Initiative, and don't quote me, well, I guess you have to. The number is $500,000 that we got from Reggie, and that will be applied directly to a rate reduction for the June, July, and August period of time for every ratepayer in the town. And I think the number is somewhere between 18 and 20%. So your electric bill will go down. It could be like 18 to 20% for those 3 months until we exhaust the $500,000. So that's always good news, and especially in light of the fact that as you look out the window, Eversource is asking for a 20% lift on their prices, and other people are doing that. Barry spoke to the fact that those things that are taking place at Eversource are not going to affect us, because Steve, you know this better than me. They only do metering for us, whatever that means. Correct. But in the future, this is in 2027 timeframe. He kind of let us know that we haven't had a rate adjustment on our electric service for 17 years. Wish we could say that about our town budget, but that's a different discussion. But there hasn't been a rate adjustment for 17 years, and he's seeing pressure on that side of things. But that's not to leave it on a bad news. He's going to do everything he can. Again, I'll just park it by going back to the beginning. The fact that you want to expand the board, and by the way, the fact that you want to have these quarterly meetings, I pinged Amy while you were talking. She said you, Steve, and she talked about coming up with some dates.
Yeah,
So I'm going to frisbee that one back onto you. Come up with some dates and let us know when you want to meet, and we'll do that. And for the members of the public, I've sat in on a few of these, and again, they're quality meetings. I mean, it's good stuff. I mean, it's the stuff that I think executives should be talking about. So, any questions, comments?
Just a statement. And I want to capture a couple of things that you gentlemen have said. Obviously, Chief, you spoke about the morale within the PD, and then Paul, you spoke about the morale outside of, or the public coming forth and saying good things about the PD. Those exemplify a change in culture. The culture of the PD obviously is getting better, because when police officers are working, that means that they're happy, they're out there, they're actually doing their job, which is, I say happy, but they're doing their job, which is a good thing. And that exemplifies a change in culture. When you don't see cops in town, that means that something's wrong. So I think the proof is in the pudding. The culture is changing for the better at the PD, and I really appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, I have in my business experience, I had this inbox thing that, or left-hand, right-hand side of my desk. I would collect all the letters from people who said, you're worse than a bag of spit, and I'd put them over here. And then I'd collect the add-a-person letters that said, you're really a good person. That was like 1 or 2. And when I felt bad, I'd read those letters, and when I felt good, I'd read the other ones just to balance off my brain. Again, sample size of me, I have heard in the past more of the bad stuff. I'm not hearing that. And maybe just because people don't talk to me about that anymore. I am hearing the other stuff. Nice to be seen, you're around, you respond, feels good. So I'm not trying to give you, a false positive, but when the customers say you're doing a good job, you should probably take that to the bank. When other people are saying you're not doing a good job, you can do whatever you want with that. So I appreciate taking the time to be with you. Thank you.
Thanks, Paul.
Thanks, Paul.
Public input. Any input from the public? Gentlemen? Please.
Sure. Good evening, folks. Rick Eaton, as you're well aware. I just wanted to inquire from the commission if you guys are aware of what's going on down in Concord with current legislation, some of the bills that are being voted on right now regarding housing. You guys discussed any of that?
Actually, Let's connect. I had a long talk with Joe Kenny today, our executive counsel for our district,
Yeah.
about several issues to include affordable housing.
It's more than affordable housing. There's a lot of bills right now that are being voted on that basically center around high-density housing. And not only are they voting on high-density housing and associated bills that go along with that, but they're also voting on taking the code enforcement from a town level to a state level. And I personally think that would be bad
Yeah, I
for
agree.
any town. And these bills are being voted on right now because of the impact it would have on our infrastructure, police department, fire department, and so forth. I just didn't know if you guys have
Yeah,
been
actually,
speaking with anybody about that.
he didn't mention that. We talked more funding, some zoning changes
Yep,
for
yep.
workforce housing, those type of issues. And, I knew it, and he mentioned it's, Kelly, the governor, that's something she's behind 100%, but I didn't know about that. And,
Yeah.
I agree.
bad news. It
Yeah,
really is.
Local control's where it's at, and actually, we did talk about local control today, Joe and I, and I know he supports that 100%. If it can be locally controlled, that's where it goes, period. I think we all agree on that. So I'd be surprised in that.
Well, maybe something you might want to talk with the selectmen about.
Yeah.
But like I said, it's being voted on right now. They have bills that are being passed this week already, and there are more that are going to probably go across their desk next week.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, we talked, about some public safety things. We talked about the new boat sticker,
Yep.
the secondary boat sticker,
Yep.
which a lot of people have mentioned to me in that business out there, that what is that? And I'm one of them. And do we really need another sticker? And I did get an answer on that, what that was all about. And, so, they want to make sure that we pay, that it shows that we paid our fee, but isn't that what the registration sticker's for, right? We don't have two license plates on a car. Yeah, right, but on the back, two of them next to each other on the back. He was funny, he's like, call the commissioner, call John Marasco and Commissioner of Motor Vehicles and ask him about that. Potentially, he said there's some kind of maybe Coast Guard requirement or something like that. But it's a whole extra, I don't know if you've seen it yet.
I have,
Yeah, but you get your square sticker, now it's a round one, it goes right next to it, and they are numbered, they all go together. So, he's gonna get that information back to me, and I invited him to the meeting here tonight, actually, and he said he would try to make it, if he could make it tonight, he'd make it next meeting. I just think it'd be a great idea, for reasons like you said, to have him there when possible, or a state rep here, or something like that, we can ask a few of those questions, too, yeah.
All right, well, just something you might want to, talk to.
Yeah, thanks.
about.
Thanks, Rick.
Thanks. Anything else? Anyone? Good. Do we have anything for non-public tonight?
I would like to make a motion to enter into non-public session under RSA 91-A3, subsection E, consideration or negotiation of pending claims and litigation.
I'll second that motion.
All in favor, I'll take a roll call vote.
Aye.
Aye.
And aye. We'll adjourn shortly to go in and clear the room to go into non-public.